The trees stood like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches creating eerie shapes against the pale glow of the moon. Gwen's headlights carved through the darkness, illuminating fleeting glimpses of the shadows that seemed to dance in the periphery. As she navigated the serpentine roads, a disquieting feeling settled in the pit of Gwen's stomach. The dense forest pressed in on either side, closing ranks like spectral figures with every mile she covered. The air became thick with an unspoken tension, and Gwen could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching her every move. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tighter as a whispering wind rattled through the trees. It was as if the forest itself was murmuring secrets, secrets Gwen could almost decipher, but never quite understand. Unease settled over her like a shroud, but curiosity held her captive, urging her to drive further into the heart of the night. The road ahead twisted and turned, revealing a dilapidated sign that read, "Whispering Pines Inn, 10 miles." Gwen hesitated but ultimately decided to continue, her sense of adventure overcoming the ominous atmosphere. As she approached the inn, the shadows seemed to grow darker, their whispers more insistent, as if the very air held untold stories that begged to be heard. The Whispering Pines Inn emerged from the depths of the forest like a ghostly apparition. Its windows were shrouded in mystery, and the flickering lamplight within cast long shadows that seemed to reach up to Gwen. She parked her car in the gravel lot, the crunching sound echoing through the night, and cautiously entered the dimly lit lobby. A solitary figure, the innkeeper, greeted her with a polite smile that did little to dispel the unsettling aura. "Welcome to the Whispering Pines Inn," he said, his voice a low murmur that mirrored the night itself. Gwen booked a room, the creaking floorboards beneath her feet resonating with every step. As she settled into bed, the whispers of the forest seemed to infiltrate the room, wrapping around her consciousness like tendrils of an ancient spell. Sleep eluded her, and the hours crawled by as the night deepened its hold on the inn and its mysterious secrets. As Gwen lay in the oppressive silence of her room, the old inn seemed to come alive with the hushed whispers of hidden conversations. Shadows played on the walls like phantoms dancing to a cryptic melody, and the air was thick with a sense of foreboding. An ominous presence seemed to linger, as though the very walls held memories best left forgotten. Unable to resist the pull of curiosity, Gwen ventured out of her room and descended the creaking staircase, drawn towards the source of the whispers. The inn, seemingly abandoned, now resonated with an eerie vitality. As she approached the lobby, the flickering lamplight revealed shadows of guests long gone, frozen in time like spectral echoes. The innkeeper, his eyes glazed with a haunted knowing, appeared at the front desk. "You are not the first to seek refuge here," he murmured, a tone of warning in his voice that sent shivers down Gwen's spine. "The Whispering Pines Inn has a history that etches itself into the very fabric of this place." He guided her through a narrow corridor to a door that creaked open to reveal a hidden room filled with aged photographs and relics from a bygone era. Faces of long-forgotten guests stared back at Gwen, frozen in time. The innkeeper's voice, now a barely audible whisper, recounted tales of lost souls and mysterious disappearances. As Gwen listened, a chilling realization set in. The shadows that whispered to her in the forest were the lingering spirits of those who had succumbed to the silent allure of the Whispering Pines Inn. The walls seemed to absorb the stories, and the air itself held the weight of past tragedies. Determined to unravel the mysteries shrouding the inn, Gwen ventured into the night once more. The forest, now alive with unseen eyes and restless whispers, seemed to guide her towards a forgotten graveyard nestled in the heart of the woods. As she moved among the weathered tombstones, each one told a tale of lives cut short and secrets buried in the earth. The whispers grew louder, intertwining with the rustling leaves and the distant howls of unseen creatures. Gwen felt a spectral presence, a force that urged her to uncover the truth hidden beneath the shadows. The graveyard revealed a forgotten chapter, a tragedy that echoed through the ages, and Gwen found herself entangled in the web of a ghostly narrative. The night, now deep and unforgiving, clung to Gwen as she returned to the inn, her mind haunted by the stories of the silent guests. The once inviting warmth of the Whispering Pines Inn had transformed into a chilling embrace, and Gwen realized she was part of a story that refused to be forgotten. Gwen's sleep that night was fitful, disturbed by the echoes of the past that reverberated through the inn's ancient walls. Dreams intertwined with the restless spirits, and as the night waned, she awoke to a chilling stillness. A spectral figure, cloaked in shadows, stood at the foot of her bed. The ghostly remnants of a tragic tale that had unfolded within the Whispering Pines Inn. The apparition beckoned Gwen, guiding her through secret passages and hidden chambers. The walls seemed to weep with the weight of untold sorrows, and the whispers of the night grew louder, telling a tale of love and betrayal that had transcended the boundaries of time. In a long-forgotten room, Gwen discovered a journal that chronicled the story of Eleanor, a woman who had once sought refuge in the Whispering Pines Inn. Her forbidden love had led to a tragedy that left her spirit tethered to the place, forever haunting its corridors. The journal spoke of a pact, a promise to reunite with her lost love, and Gwen realized that the very fabric of the inn was woven with the threads of unfinished stories. Haunted by the revelations, Gwen sought to fulfill the promises made in the journal. The forest, now alive with the whispers of the night, guided her to an ancient oak tree at the edge of the graveyard. There, beneath the shadowy branches, she unearthed a forgotten locket, the key to unlocking the spectral chains that bound Eleanor to the inn. As Gwen held the locket in trembling hands, the very air seemed to vibrate with a bittersweet energy. She returned to the haunted room, the ghostly figure of Eleanor watching with hopeful eyes. With each passing moment, the whispers of the night reached a crescendo, a symphony of sorrow and redemption. As the locket opened, revealing a faded photograph of Eleanor and her lost love, the room filled with a blinding light. The shadows retreated, and the oppressive stillness gave way to a gentle breeze that rustled the curtains. The spirits of the inn, released from their spectral chains, departed into the night, leaving behind a profound quietude. The inn, once steeped in a legacy of sorrow, now stood silent and serene. Gwen, having played a pivotal role in unraveling the mysteries of the Whispering Pines Inn, felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The forest, now devoid of whispers, exhaled a collective sigh, as if acknowledging the closure of a long-forgotten chapter. The night was draped in a thick curtain of darkness as Jerry cruised down the desolate highway. The rhythmic hum of his engine and the monotonous glow of the dashboard were his only companions. He was exhausted, having driven for hours on end. The invitation had arrived earlier that day, a cryptic message from an unknown sender. It spoke of a secluded mansion nestled in the outskirts, promising a night to remember. As Jerry followed the GPS into the heart of the wilderness, the paved road gradually gave way to a narrow, winding path. Tall trees loomed on either side, casting eerie shadows that danced with the wind. The air grew colder, and a sense of foreboding settled over him. Doubt gnawed at his mind, but the allure of the unknown pushed him forward. After what felt like an eternity, the mansion emerged from the darkness. Its grandeur was both inviting and intimidating, surrounded by a thick forest that whispered secrets. The invitation had mentioned a gathering, but the mansion appeared devoid of life. Jerry hesitated, contemplating whether to turn back, but an invisible force seemed to pull him towards the looming entrance. Inside, dimly lit hallways stretched like labyrinthine veins. Flickering candles cast flickering shadows, and an unsettling silence hung in the air. Jerry's footsteps echoed ominously as he explored the mansion's depths. A distant murmur reached his ears, a murmur that hinted at the presence of others. The invitation had promised a night to remember, but Jerry couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. As he turned a corner, the grand ballroom revealed itself. Elegant chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and a group of people stood in a circle, their faces obscured by masks. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation, and Jerry felt a chill crawl down his spine. The moment he stepped into the ballroom, the group fell silent, and all eyes turned towards him. A figure clad in a crimson cloak approached, their mask concealing any trace of identity. In a voice that seemed to echo from the shadows, the figure welcomed Jerry to the gathering. The invitation had led him here, and now he was part of something inexplicable. Little did Jerry know, the night had just begun, and the true nature of the gathering was yet to unfold. The masked figures ushered Jerry into the circle, each person's eyes hidden behind elaborate disguises. The air grew charged with an unsettling energy, and Jerry could feel the weight of their collective gaze. The figure in the crimson cloak raised a goblet, and the others followed suit. To a night of revelation and transformation, the cloaked figure intoned, and the masked congregation echoed the sentiment. With a hesitating gulp, Jerry joined the toast, the liquid within the goblet sending a shiver down his spine. As the night progressed, the atmosphere in the ballroom shifted. Conversations flowed like a dark river, filled with cryptic whispers and half-truths. Jerry tried to blend in, but a sense of unease gripped him. He began to notice peculiarities in the behavior of the masked figures, subtle signs that hinted at a hidden agenda. The clock struck midnight, and the masked congregation moved towards the mansion's grand staircase. The figure in the crimson cloak led the way, and Jerry followed, his curiosity tinged with trepidation. The staircase descended into an underground chamber, where an ancient mural adorned the walls. The cloaked figure began chanting in an ancient language, and the masked congregation joined in. The air pulsed with an otherworldly energy, and Jerry felt a growing sense of dread. He realized that he was not merely a guest. He was part of a ritual, a ceremony veiled in mystery. As the chanting reached a crescendo, shadows detached themselves from the walls, swirling around the chamber. The masked figures' movements became erratic, their masks now reflecting distorted faces. Jerry's heart pounded in his chest as he witnessed a transformation that defied explanation. In that moment of revelation, Jerry understood the true nature of the gathering. The mansion concealed ancient secrets, and he had unwittingly become entangled in a web of darkness. The cryptic invitation had been a lure, and the night held more horrors than he could fathom. The realization struck him like a thunderbolt, and fear gripped Jerry's every fiber. He yearned to escape, but the mansion seemed to tighten its grip, trapping him in a nightmare that transcended the boundaries of reason. As the ritual unfolded, the line between reality and nightmare blurred, and Jerry faced the terrifying truth that some mysteries were better left unsolved. Helen had always been drawn to the mysterious allure of night drives. The quiet roads, enveloped in darkness, seemed to beckon her with an unspoken promise of adventure. On a chilly autumn evening, she received a cryptic invitation in the mail, an ornate black envelope sealed with crimson wax. The only discernible mark was a stylized letter N embossed on the front. Intrigued and fueled by curiosity, Helen decided to embark on the journey described in the invitation. The instructions were simple. Drive alone at midnight, following a set of directions that led her through desolate backroads. The ominous moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows on the narrow path she now navigated. As she drove deeper into the night, the air grew thick with anticipation. The forest on either side of the road seemed to close in, creating an otherworldly tunnel. The occasional whoop of an owl and rustle of leaves added to the sense of foreboding. Helen's heart raced with a mix of excitement and trepidation as she approached a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood an imposing mansion, its dark silhouette etched against the night sky. The invitation's instructions led her to a grand entrance adorned with ornate carvings. Stepping out of her car, Helen felt a chill run down her spine. The mansion seemed to pulse with an energy she couldn't quite comprehend. As the massive doors creaked open, she hesitated for a moment, contemplating whether to continue into the unknown or retreat to the safety of her car. The interior of the mansion was as mysterious as the night that surrounded it. Dim candlelight flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Helen navigated through the labyrinthine corridors, guided only by the faint glow of the moon streaming through dusty windows. Voices echoed in the distance, whispering secrets she strained to comprehend. The mansion seemed to be alive with a spectral energy, and every step Helen took resonated with a haunting echo. The grandeur of the place hid layers of history, shrouded in a veil of secrecy. As she ventured deeper, Helen stumbled upon a hidden chamber adorned with ancient artifacts. Portraits of long-forgotten faces stared at her with hollow eyes, and dusty books lined the shelves, their spines cracked and pages yellowed with time. The air felt heavy with untold stories. A sudden draft extinguished the candles, plunging the room into darkness. Panic gripped Helen as she fumbled for her phone, the only source of light in this ghostly abyss. Illuminating the room with the cold glow of her screen, she discovered a faded diary on an antique desk. The diary revealed tales of a tragic love, betrayal, and a curse that bound the mansion to the souls of those who once lived there. Helen's pulse quickened as she read about a night drive that connected the living with the tormented spirits of the past. Haunted by the revelations, Helen resolved to leave the mansion, but the once familiar corridors seemed to have twisted and transformed. Panic set in as the walls closed in around her. The voices grew louder, pleading for release from the shackles of time. Fueled by an inexplicable determination, Helen followed a cryptic trail that led her to a forgotten graveyard behind the mansion. As the clock struck 3, she found herself standing before a weathered tombstone bearing her own name. Helen's breath caught in her throat as she stared at the gravestone bearing her name. The realization that the mansion held secrets entwined with her own existence sent shivers down her spine. The echoes of the past seemed to reverberate through the graveyard, each whisper carrying the weight of untold stories. A spectral figure emerged from the shadows, its form shifting between transparency and solidity. The ghostly apparition beckoned Helen closer, its eyes filled with both sorrow and longing. As she approached, the ghost extended a hand, inviting her to share in the anguish that bound them together. Compelled by an otherworldly force, Helen reached out and touched the ghost's cold, ethereal hand. In that moment, a flood of memories surged through her mind, memories that were not her own. She experienced the heartbreak, the betrayal, and the curse that had tethered the spirits to the mansion. The ghostly figure spoke without words, communicating the need for closure. Helen understood that she held the key to breaking the cycle that bound the spirits to the mansion. Guided by an inner strength, she retraced her steps through the twisting corridors and hidden chambers, searching for a way to lift the curse. In the heart of the mansion, Helen discovered an ancient artifact, a forgotten relic imbued with the energy of the curse. With a trembling hand, she grasped the artifact, feeling its power surge through her. The voices that once echoed in sorrow now whispered words of gratitude and release. As Helen stood in the grand entrance, the mansion itself seemed to sigh with relief. The atmosphere lightened, and the moonlight streamed through the windows, casting away the darkness that had shrouded the place for centuries. The spectral figures that haunted the halls faded away, finding peace in the release of the curse. The massive doors creaked closed behind her, and the mansion vanished into the night, leaving Helen standing alone in the clearing. The air felt lighter, and the forest, once menacing, now seemed serene. The night drive had led her to a journey of self-discovery and redemption. Helen returned to her car, the black envelope and its mysterious invitation now a distant memory. The road ahead seemed clearer, and as she drove away from the vanished mansion, a sense of closure and peace enveloped her. Owen couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling as he stared at the cryptic invitation that had arrived in the mail. It was a simple black card with elegant silver lettering that read, "Join us for a night drive to the unknown. Departure, midnight. Destination, secrets unveiled." No return address, no indication of who had sent it, just the ominous promise of an adventure that left Owen both intrigued and uneasy. As midnight approached, curiosity got the better of him, and he found himself behind the wheel of his weathered sedan, driving through winding, desolate roads. The night was exceptionally dark, the moon hidden behind thick clouds. The only source of light was the feeble glow of his headlights, casting eerie shadows on the trees lining the road. The instructions on the invitation led him deeper into the countryside, away from civilization. Owen's nerves were on edge, but a strange compulsion pushed him forward. As he drove, the road seemed to narrow, the dense forest closing in around him. The silence was deafening, broken only by the haunting rustle of leaves in the wind. Eventually, Owen arrived at an old, dilapidated mansion standing alone in the darkness. The mansion loomed ominously, its windows shattered, and ivy crawling up its decaying walls. Despite the eerie appearance, a dim light emanated from within. Owen hesitated, but the allure of the unknown drew him inside. The interior was as haunting as the exterior. Dust-covered furniture draped in white sheets, creaking floorboards beneath his weight, and a chill that seemed to seep through the walls. As Owen explored, he stumbled upon a room adorned with antique mirrors. In their reflection, he saw fleeting shadows and heard whispers that sent shivers down his spine. The source of the whispers became clear when he discovered a group of people, cloaked in darkness, gathered in the mansion's dimly lit hall. The air grew heavier as Owen realized he was not alone. The leader, a mysterious figure with piercing eyes, welcomed him, explaining that the night drive was not just a journey but a test, one that would reveal hidden truths. The group escorted Owen to the backyard, where an assortment of vintage cars awaited. Each vehicle seemed to carry its own secrets, their engines humming with an otherworldly resonance. As the clock struck midnight, the leader gestured toward a sleek, black sedan and beckoned for Owen to take the driver's seat. The night drive began, the caravan of mysterious cars weaving through the winding roads. Owen's apprehension turned to fascination as he became entranced by the haunting beauty of the night. The moon struggled to break through the clouds, casting an ethereal glow on the dark landscape. As the miles passed, the atmosphere grew more surreal. Owen felt like he was traversing the boundary between the living and the unknown. The road ahead seemed to stretch endlessly into the abyss, the trees whispering secrets of forgotten tales. The leader, seated beside him, began to speak in riddles, recounting ancient stories of lost souls and the shadows that danced in the periphery of reality. Owen listened intently, his skepticism waning as the night unfolded around him. Suddenly, the caravan came to a halt at a desolate clearing bathed in an otherworldly light. The leader motioned for Owen to follow him into the darkness. The air was thick with anticipation as they approached an ancient, gnarled tree that stood as a silent witness to the mysteries of time. Underneath the tree, a buried secret awaited. The leader handed Owen a worn-out journal, its pages filled with the stories of those who had embarked on this journey before him. Each account spoke of a revelation that changed the course of their lives. As Owen delved into the journal, he discovered tales of love lost, buried guilt, and the weight of unfulfilled ambitions. The shadows seemed to come alive, weaving a tapestry of the human experience. The leader, sensing Owen's inner turmoil, encouraged him to confront his own truth. With trepidation, Owen shared his deepest fears and regrets. The night responded, echoing his confessions in haunting whispers. The shadows danced, merging with the echoes of the past. As the night drive came to an end, the first light of dawn painted the horizon. The mysterious figures bid Owen farewell, leaving him with the weight of newfound revelations. The black sedan led him back to the mansion, now bathed in the soft glow of morning. Owen emerged changed, the echoes of the night etched into his soul. The mansion faded into the distance as he drove back, the road now familiar, yet forever altered by the secrets it held. The night drive was not just a journey, it was a passage through the shadows of the human spirit. The night was thick with darkness as Harry gripped the wheel of his old Chevy, navigating the winding roads that stretched like veins through the desolate countryside. The only company he had was the soft hum of the engine and the occasional rustling of leaves in the cold wind. His tired eyes strained to catch any sign of civilization, but all that surrounded him was an endless sea of shadows. Harry had taken this route 100 times before, a shortcut through the rural backroads that saved him time on his way home. However, tonight was different. The air felt heavy, and an eerie silence enveloped the landscape. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him from the inky blackness beyond the reach of his headlights. As he drove deeper into the night, the road seemed to stretch longer than usual, each mile feeling like an eternity. His mind played tricks on him, conjuring images of ghostly figures lurking in the shadows. The rhythmic thud of his own heartbeat echoed in his ears, a stark contrast to the emptiness outside. An old gas station came into view, its flickering neon sign barely holding on to life. Relieved, Harry pulled in, the dim light revealing a solitary figure behind the counter. The attendant's eyes met Harry's, a silent acknowledgement of the desolation that surrounded them. "Long drive, huh?" the attendant said, his voice a low murmur. Harry nodded, uneasy but grateful for the break in isolation. He filled up the tank and headed inside to pay, the bell above the door jingling ominously as he entered. The dimly lit store was filled with shelves of dusty snacks and faded magazines. Harry's eyes scanned the rows of items as he approached the counter, his unease growing with every creak of the floorboards beneath his feet. "Strange night, isn't it?" the attendant mumbled, his gaze fixed on the dark expanse beyond the store's windows. Harry agreed, paying quickly and making his way back to the car. As he pulled back onto the desolate road, he couldn't shake the feeling that the night held secrets, ones he was reluctant to uncover. The road stretched ahead like a never-ending ribbon, the headlights of Harry's Chevy cutting through the darkness. The gas station faded into the rearview mirror, and the oppressive silence reclaimed its hold on the night. Harry's hands tightened on the steering wheel as he pressed on, each mile taking him deeper into the heart of the unknown. The winding road seemed to play tricks on him, shadows dancing at the edges of his vision. His eyes darted nervously from side to side, searching for any sign of life. But the world outside his car remained a pitch-black abyss. As Harry rounded a bend, the headlights revealed an abandoned mansion, its decaying facade eerily illuminated in the pale glow. The sight sent a shiver down his spine, and he couldn't resist the urge to investigate. Parking his car, he approached the looming structure, its windows like empty eyes staring into the void. The creak of the front door echoed through the stillness as Harry cautiously stepped inside. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the floor groaned beneath his weight. The mansion seemed frozen in time, trapped in a haunting stillness that sent a chill down his spine. As he explored the desolate rooms, Harry stumbled upon an old photograph. The faces in the picture seemed strangely familiar, evoking the sense of déjà vu. A distant memory clawed at the edges of his consciousness, but it remained elusive. A sudden noise jolted him back to the present. Footsteps echoed through the mansion, each one sending a shockwave of fear through Harry's veins. He hesitated, torn between the urge to flee and the need to uncover the mysteries that surrounded him. The footsteps grew louder, drawing closer with each passing second. The air became charged with an otherworldly energy, and Harry felt a presence in the darkness that defied explanation. The haunting silence of the night was broken only by the echoes of his own breathing as he stood paralyzed, caught between the known and the unknowable. With a hesitant breath, Harry decided to confront the source of the footsteps. The echoes led him to a grand staircase, its steps groaning beneath an invisible weight. He ascended slowly, the air growing colder with each step. At the top, a long corridor stretched before him, lined with closed doors that seemed to guard ancient secrets. As he approached one, a faint whisper reached his ears, chilling him to the bone. The door creaked open on its own accord, revealing a room bathed in an ethereal light. Inside, An old gramophone crackled to life, emitting a haunting melody that seemed to seep from the very walls. Shadows danced in the corners of the room, and a cold gust of wind extinguished the candles that flickered on an antique dresser. In the center of the room stood a dusty, forgotten mirror. Harry hesitated before approaching it, his reflection distorted by the aged glass. The whispers grew louder, echoing the forgotten voices of the past. As he stared into the mirror, the faces in the old photograph flashed before his eyes once again. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness, the gramophone falling silent. Panic gripped Harry as he fumbled for a way out, but the door slammed shut, trapping him in the suffocating blackness. He felt a presence in the room, an unseen force that surrounded him like a shroud. "Who's there?" Harry called out, his voice shaky. A ghostly figure materialized before him, its form obscured by shadows. It spoke in hushed tones, revealing a tragic tale of love and betrayal that had unfolded within the mansion's walls. The faces in the photograph were no strangers. They were the lost souls bound to the mansion, unable to find peace. As the ghostly figure spoke, the room began to transform. Flickering candlelight revealed the mansion in its former glory, alive with the laughter and footsteps of its former inhabitants. Harry found himself drawn into the tragic narrative, experiencing the echoes of a bygone era. In the end, the ghostly figure turned to Harry, pleading for release from the eternal torment that bound it to the mansion. The choice lay in Harry's hands, to break the curse or succumb to the same fate as the lost souls before him.